You are welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to first start by painting a picture. When I drive over the Third Mainland Bridge, there's this big patch of land that is, well, it's artificial. And I've been wondering what exactly it was for. And then there's the news for the redevelopment of the Makoko area and the people of Makoko who you represent. So I'm wondering exactly how this patch of land that's coming up might affect things or development that's happening, including policies and everything for Makoko. Let me start with you, please, if you do not mind.
Well, the truth of the matter still remains that there's actually no development going on in Makoko for the people of Makoko. What we have on ground now is forceful acquisition of people's, indigenous people's ancestral land under the guise of development. The purported developer that was brought in by the Lagos State government, one FBT Cora, is not coming there to develop Makoko for the Makoko people. He's coming there to even first of all wipe out the ancestral heritage, the traditional heritage and the history of the Makoko people.
Is that something the government will allow? Because your definition is painting quite a gory picture. Is that something the government will allow to happen, to wipe off the history of a people?
In the sense that what is on ground is that the place is even being allocated to the developer. Why will people ancestral settlement be allocated to a private individual and it's now being renamed FBT Coral Estate?
Now, two things. You say they are actually giving this land, this ancestral land, to developers. My question is on the word ancestral. Let's talk about the history of Makoko. We know that it's a settlement of mostly Ilaje people.
Mostly Egun people.
Egun people,
yes.
And that they had moved there. How far back did they move there, and how does this become their ancestral land? Let's talk about the legality of them being inhabitants.
The people of Makoko,
and it's not even land, it's actually water.
No, the community stretch from the shores of the Lagos Lagoon down to the water.
Okay.
So they have been on that settlement for over 200 years. They settled there in the early 1800s. So they have been on that settlement for over 200 years. And they are not paying rent to anybody for you to call it customary tenancy or anything. So that is where people, great-grandfathers were born there.
All right, before I bring you in, Deji, I just have one more question for you. Obviously, something has been going on for a while, and you have been fighting. Tell us about the fight that you have put up to stop what you've described as a desecration of the land.
Yes, we filed an action in court to challenge the forceful acquisition of the land, of the settlement, the land and the settlement, because straight from the church down to the waterfront. We filed an action to challenge that acquisition. And we are also challenging previous demolitions, right from July 2012. We are challenging those demolitions. We are also challenging the forceful acquisition without compensation, without any relocation scheme, no relocation plan. They just go there whenever the government likes. And the argument they first of all put up is, oh, people are staying under the power line. We want to remove people from the power line.
All right, I think you should take it from there.
Yeah.
You know,
okay, so let's put maybe the geography in perspective.
Okay.
So over time, these are early, or maybe I should go back to, let's try and debunk something here, where people look at a group of people who settle somewhere for a certain period of time, and we look at them and you say, oh, they don't have legal right to stay. That's quite wrong. There are provisions and there are cases that people have won and over the fact that they are forced settlers and they have land rights, or to a large extent a title to claim that. You see, on the social space, people just like, oh, you just came from nowhere and you occupied land. People, for instance, the people of Okobaba, very close to, behind the sawmill, they were moved from the former, where you have LSDPC across the bridge, Alaji Latif Jakon, they moved them from their first settlement. They moved them to the behind the sawmill, where they now occupy. Why did government settle them there now? But what is the government intervention in trying to see to their housing in or to regularize their land title? Where the challenge is the fact that there is the law since 1979 that gives the states the right to the land in custody for public good, you understand? But also there's the federal government dimension. So when you talk about the ocean now, so you begin to talk about so it is ocean, is the water, but part of it, very close to it, the government, the federal government has a certain parameter. Now, the development that you are seeing is happening right on the ocean, right? Now, that is also now federal government property. You understand? But it
Which
is
in
not,
itself is close to the power lines.
which itself is close to the power line, interestingly. So you're moving people who have, of course, the people have been sand filling the land, moving, and it looks like an hazard. They're under the power line, then you have to stop them. You understand? But you have another estate. If you listen to the statement of the commissioner, if I hear him...
I would like to read from the commissioner here. His X page, he had written this. Earlier today, while addressing journalists on seasonal climate prediction and socio-economic implications for Lagos State, I spoke on concerns about the sand filling project in Makoko. It is important to note that we rely on facts and verified information rather than speculation. The project was approved before my tenure with the necessary environmental impact assessments secured from the ministry. It is also under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Works. The EIA findings indicate that there is no negative impact on the environment.
That is another issue that that's been bugging my mind.
Yeah.
If this was done before his time, meaning that all the paperwork has been done, why is it taking so long to bring the EIA out so people can take a look at it?
You said it, I've not said it. So you're asking the commissioner. So number one, I don't know where this was done before my tenure comes in. That's governance is a continuum.
And also he said that it was under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Works, meaning that the Federal Ministry of Work must have done its due diligence, knowing fully well that there will be controversy over whatever redevelopment plan they are taking on, that these are documents that you put to clamp down on arguments and make your case.
So it's not done just by, because the paperwork, the PPP is between the Lagos State government and the developer. So you see the interplay of state and federal. But you can see a good handshake. You can see the interplay of state and federal working, but you now make it look like a disconnect. There's no disconnect here. And it is not difficult. We shouldn't be hearing things like, we will retrieve the EIA. This issue has been in contention since last year. Any serious government would have brought out the EIA and made it public. There are certain, the letter from the Federal Ministry of Environment and the Environmental Assessment Department states clearly about 8 documents that the developer needs to prepare. One of such is the MOU with the community, sustainability report, annual sustainability report. The EIA should be made public, and we shouldn't even be talking about just EIA now, which is environmental impact assessment, but environmental social impact assessment.
Yeah, I saw you nodding when he was talking about the EIA and making it available. Even if that is done, it will have some impact on those that are originally resident there, because you said it yourself that they were encroaching onto the water. So that report, beyond validating the position that the government is taking, will also allow for perhaps a more progressive redevelopment effort.
Yes, a progressive redevelopment effort. That the argument is not about who has right, whether they have rights or not. They are long settlers. You understand? And you begin now. What we need to do as an intervention is to look at what is sustainable to build.
Okay, Deji, Felicity, Mr. Dodo. Now this is very interesting. I wanted to know how much confidence you have in the efforts that you're putting to try and help the people of Makoko here. When you put into perspective the past, history, we've had Morocco, we've had Takwa Bay, we currently have, I think, what's the one? Now, with the efforts that you're putting in, how much confidence do you have in perhaps maybe an agreement being made for the people of Makoko, noting that the government have always been very, very, what's the word, bullish in their approach to these kinds of issues? Do you see that there would be an agreement that would be safe for the people of Makoko in the nearest future?
Well, like you said, we know that more or less we are in we are not running a democratic system of government. Because
unfortunately,
if we are running such a system, the people should be taken into consideration whenever decisions want to be made. But unfortunately, we are in a system where I call it personally a rogue system, where they just take decisions for people, and if you like it, fine. If you don't like, you go to hell. They proclaim on the people. We are not going to be deterred by those past events. We are ready to pursue our case to legitimate conclusion. We are ready to fight it.
It looks like even though your case is on, the case is already, I mean, actions are already being taken to displace your community. So what would be an alternative arrangement that would be acceptable to the people of Makoko? Is relocation an option that is being considered at all?
Well, they have not even considered relocation. And what we are saying is very simple. The people of Makoko want to live in their community. They are not against development. But the development should not become a pain for them, or the development should not come and wipe out the community.
Okay, Deji, the development that I saw online is very elitist.
Okay.
There doesn't seem to be room for incorporation of indigenous people because you see high-rise building, offices. They did say there's an academy somewhere, but
academy for
I mean, so he has a point when he says that the incorporation of the people's needs doesn't seem to factor in. Perhaps if that has been done, some of the arguments that the community is putting on, well, people will say, okay, they've given you this, they've given you that. What else do you want? But there doesn't seem to be provision for the people of this community.
So the question is, how long are we going to continue with these islands of exclusion? And it is quite traumatic that you see middle-class Nigerians, Lagosians, support efforts like this, thinking in their minds that maybe one day after going to church and they've prayed, they will receive a miracle and own houses in these places. Those places are not in any way for the majority of the people. And it is alarming the way people look at these things and you say, oh, that place is so dirty, yes, they should build something. Build something for who? What is the occupancy rate of Eco Atlantic? How many houses are in Ikoyi and VI that are empty? Luxury.
Oh yes, definitely. I used to live in Oniru, and then you drive around and you see all the buildings that are empty, and I'm wondering, and there are people looking for places to stay.
So what makes you and I think, or the government think, that this is the next thing that needs to be done? And we have government officials, and I mean, with all due respect to the governor, doesn't have anything to say about this issue after it has gone several times viral. Is this, the estate that you saw, does it look like something that wants to meet the housing needs of the people?
Hang on a second, Deji. Mr. Dodo, what's the population of Makoko currently?
Population of Makoko is about 200,000 people.
200,000?
Because we have, when we talk of Makoko, there are other neighboring communities. Okay. We have Makoko, Okwagmo, Shogoro, and Iwaya.
Okay. And what's the livelihood of these people?
Their major source of livelihood is fishing.
Boom. Now, Deji.
Yeah.
If this resettlement happens, what effect would it have on the people whose major source of living is fishing? Has that been considered? Or is that also one of the weapons that are being used in your fight against the government?
To always think that there's a need for a resettlement shows the error of judgment. They are living here. It's about the right to the city. You feel that they don't have a right. That's why somebody is thinking they should be pushed out and sent somewhere else. Is it that they are too ugly for the city, or you want to hide the poor of your city?
You didn't say, I didn't say it, you said it. There's been concerns about the fact that there is a level of exploitation of what happens in Makoko. It's a community built on stilts. Yeah. And then you go in there, you see I mean, you're concerned about health, the health of the people, their well-being, their education, and all of that. So when people talk about relocation or perhaps integration, they might, their solution is cute, quite all right, but there is a concern about the well-being of that community
How do you
address that concern? I think it would be better if there is an integrated plan to redevelop the place and keep the people who are there.
There are architectural interventions.
Yes.
There are social interventions. And that's the task. You see, when you say you want to be the governor of a state, it is not a job for some young kid. It's about... The easiest thing to say to Makoko is wipe them out and let us build something else. But what is challenging for those who are in government is say, how do we do an intervention here? Some time ago, a young man led a team. A team came together and they built the floating school. Of course, it was discommissioned. But it was exemplary for you as a government to show intervention to the point that a Nollywood film actually went in there and did a film, and you could see the life. You could see the better life that was done based on that.
Not just Nollywood, foreign producers have come into Nigeria
personally, I think that there is an exploitation in that.
Just a second.
We'll get there.
Now they've come in and they have actually made productions, documentaries showing how very interesting these places are. To the question I had asked earlier, I'm hoping that you can still answer that. What's going to happen to the lives of these fishermen, predominantly fishermen, if they're displaced or resettled? Is there any consideration, and is this being used as an item?
Livelihood is going to be lost. The fishing, the economy of the fish market in Makoko, the city benefits from it. The fish you eat, part of it comes from there.
So it's even goes broader beyond that, goes beyond the people.
Yeah, you see, when the sawmill, for instance, which is another story, which is by design, and people mix it up. Oh, they've done a resettlement for them. No, what we're talking about is larger than the sawmill side, that the state government relocated the people and all of that. So livelihood is going to be lost, cultural erasure. It's very, very important. You see, it's the mindset that we have that we need to alter here. That there is nothing wrong with a group of people with a certain level of income living in a particular place over a period of time. If you don't have a solution to solve their problem, you better rather leave them. But there is a way. There are designs that have been done to say, okay, this is how you can do intervention in this community.
I'm trying to remember now. I think there was a master plan for the redevelopment of Makoko. Can you confirm, has there ever been
no
conversation around how the...
It's the developer that came up with his own master plan. And when he came with the plan, we talk about the EIA, for example. When you want to, the law, the environmental act, which provide for that environmental impact assessment, provide that even the community, the affected community, must have an input, which was not done. So these are some of the things we are looking at.
What worries you about the fact that government seems to be silent about the concerns of the Makoko people? We'll come to the environmental issues later, but there seems that this community has been. Have your community had maybe a one-on-one with the state government on what you desire for the place, and what have they said if that has happened?
The challenge we're having is that the government the government believes that you think for the people, whereas the government needs to consult the people to know exactly what the people. There has not been any such consultation.
So if I may add, the dynamics that have come into the city of Lagos, and you can see it all around, is the use of traditional institutions for land acquisition.
Say that again, explain please.
The use of traditional institutions in collaboration with the state government against their own people. For every demolition that you have seen in the city of Lagos of recent, as a royal family or an authorship attached to it.
Can you identify with names?
Yeah, Otomare, Oworonshoki,
something that's...
So, you see, and the government needs to know that it's... So, because if you probably call up and say, oh, we did engagement, the ballets signed this, but they use, and it is amazing. We should not let you are not just removing culture that we're talking about now, our traditional institutions being reduced.
If I may interject, the others and the ballers are the spokesperson of the people. It is assumed that they have the empowerment to operate with consent from the people. So you cannot go to individual one after the other to ask for issues. The ballers and the...
You raised the issue of consent. You said with consent. If they actually go and negotiate, and you come back and the people say no, we disagree with what you went to
So you
negotiate,
mean that
and we
the
moved to
people
court.
have no
They
sort
did
of
not get the
check
consent of their people.
mechanisms for their obas? That you cannot. To be fair,
In the matter we are
always
pursuing.
flog the government when we need to flog them.
Yeah.
But also the community should hold some responsibility because you have representatives who are supposed to speak on your behalf.
Felicity.
So if they fail in
Felicity.
their responsibility,
We draft those ballots.
Felicity. It would seem that the people are being, well, the culture and everything are being sold out, even by the people by the persons
quite
that are
sad.
supposed to represent the people.
I know.
So
but
that's what is the beginning. If you say that these are the people who are
So
selling
you
out
see,
to the
we
government.
need to understand where we are, then we begin to think so this
I
is
know,
it.
it's just-
Land, the philosophy in the city of Lagos and a lot of cities is, land is the best form of investment. And traditional institutions kind of control land spaces. And this is now the challenge that we have. So the institutions, as far as I'm concerned, need to wake up, and we need to begin to challenge some of these traditional institutions about their role in land acquisition and the loss that is happening to its own people.
Okay, I think you wanted to say something, and I
Yes,
stopped.
what I
trying
wanted to say
jump
is
in.
the issue of consent. The people, the community actually disagreed with the position of the traditional leaders, which are the ballots. And in this matter, we filed presently in court. We made them respondent. They are defendants in that suit. The community members sued their ballots.
Oh,
That
interesting.
is what is happening now.
For how much are these pieces of lands going, and who is collecting these monies? The ballers, the leaders?
It makes rubbish of my submission, really, that
Where-
these people are supposed to represent.
Yeah, exactly.
their
So where's the
people.
money going when these agreements are being made between the people, in quotes, that's the ballers actually, and the government? Where does the money that is paid or the agreement fees, where does it go? Back to the people, or just one person, maybe
We don't know.
the traditional leader?
We don't have any information.
That is why your plan has to be made public. You cannot call a few people into a room and have a discussion with them and have an agreement. I tell people, I keep telling people that Makoko stakeholders is not even just the people of Makoko. For a very long time, the government has neglected this area.
Definitely.
And institutions, religious, private, philanthropists have gone into Makoko.
Deji, I'll pause you.
They've invested.
I'll pause you and say something. There is the argument of the legality of the settlement.
Yeah.
And that is perhaps maybe what the government is taking advantage of. So let's talk about the legality. Now you say
Even
you've been
the
there for
commission-
200
wait,
years.
sorry.
200 years. There's a what's it called? You talked about it outside regarding being in a position for a long time and then it eventually becomes legally yours.
Yeah, there's provision for you having stayed somewhere that is not even, doesn't never belong to anybody. Like I gave you an instance, some people were even moved down there by the government
So that makes it legal.
that makes it legal. But there is no, so like in the case of those living in Ayetoro, Ayetoro just behind the sawmill. Give us papers, Lagos State government. No, we can't give you. The land belongs to federal. You go to federal, no, it's your state. But when a private developer comes, there's the office of PPP that you can enter an agreement with and say, okay, just sandfill the place,
And start.
then you give us 25% as a state government.
Yeah.
Now, the state government gets 25. That development you're saying, 25% of it belongs to Lagos State
So,
government.
but I need you to speak on this in 30 seconds if you can. I know that the federal government and the states are very assured that they've done their due diligence, but are there concerns in environmental circles about the possible impact and sustainability of such developments? This feeling
Serious
of the
concerns.
ocean?
But however, for it to be substantiated, bring out the EIA, make it public. Let us call professional institutions, bodies. Let's do a public hearing. Let it be laid down on the table. Let everybody see it. There are too many stakeholders who have invested in Makoko ever before you decided to come up with this plan. Let it be made public and let us follow through. We've had this kind of problem when it was the time of Eco Atlantic and for several other developments. But this should not just, we will not allow this to just go.
Deji, I want to say thank you. Mr. Femi, Dodo, thank you very much for coming in to have this conversation.